Guys, he cut his teeth at an operating company in the private equity firm, also at PwC before that. Now runs a newsletter focused on CFOs, of which he gets a 46% open rate, which is about 16,000 opens, and a 5 to 7% click-through rate, which is 800 clicks per post, called mostlymetrics.com, hosted on Substack. 7,000 of those readers are actual CFOs. In fact, it's so valuable, we've got companies like Brex willing to pay him 1, 2, 3, 4K sort of per post from a sponsor perspective. He's looking to scale that now, launched a podcast as well with Turpentine, still while cutting his teeth as an operator, as a true CFO at a company called Parts Tech, which he's working on. Hey folks, my guest today is CJ Gustafson. He's a startup CFO who sat on both sides of the table, the one who's doing the funding and the one who's receiving the funding. He's a fan of breaking down how businesses make money, and writes about his learnings twice a week in his newsletter, mostlymetrics.com. All right, CJ, you ready to take us to the top?
Let's blast off, buddy.
All right. So my audience really respects, obviously, folks that cut their teeth in the operating world. So what company were you sort of operating in, learning that side of the equation?
Yeah, man. So I've been an operator for about 10 years now. I was originally on the, private equity and management consulting side, where I learned a lot about business models, but I felt like a total financial tourist. I didn't really have skin in the game. And then when I moved over to get, my quote, real world MBA, I was at a backup and recovery software vendor, and I was leading, sales ops and FP&A. And that's kind of where I learned how to make the trains run on time.
Yep. So you have a very interesting background. So Big Four, PwC, then Providence Equity Partners for a year and a half. Providence Equity, is that usually majority buyout?
It is, yeah, in technology and media space.
Yep. So did they buy a chunk of Veeam, and that's why you jumped into Veeam?
No, I had, it's funny, the connections you make when you're younger end up playing out to help you in your career. So I had interned, and I was completely useless, by the way. I basically got coffees and sandwiches for people at a company that was bought by VMware, and the CEO ended up going over to this company, and I called him one day for advice, and I was like, hey, I don't know if I should go get another degree here. And he said, well, why don't you just come work for me? And since I went over and started to hang out with salespeople and learn about how you both sell and build a product, I've never left the operating side.
Got it. So Veeam Software through 2019, then a group called Snike, I think is how you say that, through 2022.
Yeah, Sneak. So
Sneak.
Kind of cybersecurity on that pre-IPO path. And I followed the same management team there, and I helped build out the first FP&A group. And then we went through the whole craziness of COVID and fundraising and hyperscale.
Then you leave that in September 2022 and jump into sort of this media empire you're building. Why did you make that decision, and what is the media empire? Who are you focused on audience-wise?
Yeah, of course. So I stumbled upon this. So I have a newsletter. It's Mostly Metrics, mostlymetrics.com. And then I have a podcast. It's called Run the Numbers. It's produced by the Turpentine Network. And
do they pay you for that, or do you pay them to be part of the network?
They pay me. So we have advertisers. So there are a couple of different monetization streams I can break down for each. But basically, what I discovered was there wasn't an operator voice creating content out there specifically for, the people who are in the trenches in kind of the office of the CFO. And for a while, I was trying to just document what I was learning. And Nathan, that's because people in the startup world will pay you for the playbook that you have. You've taken a company from X to Y to Z. How do you do that now for my company too? And I was kind of scared shitless that, I don't know if I can swear on this. I was scared I was scared that I was going to forget what I was learning. So I started to document it. And eventually I found what I call audience market fit. It was a bunch of people who were like me, interested in the same stuff. And it took on a life of its own. It went from, my mother and my dog and my wife reading it to 35,000 people in about a year and a half. So first year and a half, I wrote, nobody listened to me.
So when did you launch it? When did you start writing?
I launched it in COVID in, I think, December of 2020.
Okay. And how did you get your first 1,000 subscribers?
Oh man, that was a grind. I was a nut. So I would write stuff, and then I would find 5 keywords within it. So maybe I wrote about top metrics for vertical software, and I would go on Twitter and I would maniacally just keep searching for like vertical software. And then I would write something insightful and then link back to my article.
You'd write something insightful in response to tweets that were already posted and link back?
Yeah, that's exactly what I would do. And then I got kicked out of just about every Reddit group trying to post stuff like many content creators do. And then honestly, what helped was building inroads with B2B companies who were looking to promote their software in some way, but wanted a real person to speak to the merits of using something. So like there are a lot of FP&A tools out there. They all have content arms, or like there are a lot of payment companies like a Brex or a Ramp, and they all, have content arms, but they want to partner with people who are actually practitioners in the trenches. And, I was at first willing to, do it for free for them and say, hey, I'm trying to get my name out there. I enjoy writing and I have experience to speak about stuff that'll resonate with people. It's not like you just hired somebody on Upwork to write it for you and it doesn't really make sense. So partnering with businesses helped a lot.
Oh, what's going on there, YouTube? Good to see you guys. Now imagine this. You love watching these interviews with SaaS founders, but imagine if we took all of the valuation data out from over 2,807 interviews I've done manually. Saves you a lot of time. Well, we've done this. We've built it into the beautiful interface inside of FounderPath. Check this out. I'll show you how you can access this in a second, but you log in, you connect your Stripe account, you see your valuation real time, you can see what it changed over the past 88 days, and even set goals for valuation this year. Now, the secret to valuation is there's many different ways to value a SaaS business. So the reason you're going to see 3 or 4 different valuations inside of your FounderPath dashboard, this is all free by the way, is because depending on who's doing the buying of your SaaS company, you're going to get a different valuation. A VC is going to pay a different valuation. Private equity firm is different. If you're going to do a minority sale, that's different. And if you sell the whole business, that's a different valuation. You can see all those when I hover over here. Right, so the teal is what a VC would pay, yellow is what private equity, and red is if you sold the whole thing outright. Now, what's cool about this is not built off random data. Again, you guys hear these interviews on YouTube. All these data are built from real-time valuation data points founders share with us on the show. So traction, 1.2 million, seed round, 3.7 raise, they sold 22% of their business. Go in here and filter by the event. Maybe you only want to see companies that have sold the whole business. Well, here are a bunch that have been acquired, the valuation and the multiple. Maybe you're going out right now and you're raising your seed round. Well, go in here and look at all this recent seed deals that went down, what they raised, what valuation they raised at, and what percent that they sold. There's never been a larger data set of SaaS valuations than what you can get now inside of FounderPath, and we're thrilled to bring it to you. All right, we're going to go back to the YouTube video here in a second, but if you want to check this tool out, if you want to jump in and sign up, you can check it out for free to get your valuation at this link, founderpath.com/products/valuations. Or if you go to founderpath.com and hover over products, click on get your valuation here and go ahead and sign up to give it a whirl. Again, all that valuation data live right inside the platform. I hope to see you there. All right, let's jump back into the interview.
Who was your first business partner?
My first business partner was actually, it was Ramp, which was a really good one to have. And then I did Data Rails on the FP&A side. And then the first paid one that I worked with was Brex. And since then, it's been kind of off to the races.
What year did Brex pay you?
They were in 2022. And before that, like I actually never even thought about advertising or sponsor content. I was totally of the subscription mindset. And that's because I came from B2B software companies where I just knew how powerful subscription was. And I eventually actually came to the conclusion, like, hell, why don't I have all the monetization methods? And I think that's what a lot of creators struggle with, is picking their spots of where to make money off stuff. And sometimes they pigeonhole themselves into just one thing. I mean, like, you can make a lot of money if you do webinars to help, a software company land deals with a highly targeted audience. There are a lot of different avenues you can take, and kind of blending those together will kind of end up in a larger pie over time by diversifying revenue.
How did you structure that original Brex sponsorship contract, and what was the total value of the contract?
They had reached out to me and they said, hey, how about we just pay you a lump sum for 6 posts? And so I don't think I can give the exact amount on it, but that was kind of eye-opening to me. Like, oh shit, somebody wants to pay me for my writing now. It's not just a way to use companies as a partner.
Are we talking, give us a range? I mean, are we talking like 1K per post or like 10K per post or less or something?
It was in the middle of those two numbers you just gave.
So, but it's per post. So if it's 2K per post for 6 posts, they paid you something like, I'm making this up, 12K, something like that.
Yeah, something in that ballpark. So it wasn't like I was retiring off it, but it was, if you've ever made $1 online for the first time, it's a real holy shit moment. Like I feel kind of seen and validated here. And that was more important to me than the money. It was like a company that I thought highly of was willing to pay me, and they were taking a bet on me. And since then I've been able to drastically, I'd say, increase the contract values of those who want to advertise because of the audience.
So what do you charge now to get a mention in a post?
Minimally probably like 5 to 10,000, depending on how much I have to say about it.
Okay.
But yeah, that's kind of the
do you sell any other inventory besides a backlink in your Mostly Metrics article?
So I think about myself kind of as a SKU, and I think content creators have to do that. Like, it's not just about writing something in a backlink and charging for it. It's my voice is different than other people in, I think, the finance game. And I will also show up and talk to your customers if you want, just from my experiences. So like you could structure something where, hey, and I'm just going to make it up, $100,000 over 3 months. You could do one podcast readout every week in my own tone that should resonate with finance people, plus a newsletter post, plus like a webinar, show up to your event. And it becomes more of a relationship, I think, when you do it that way, to say, listen, I'm here to make you succeed in any way I can, in any content form that you can. And by bundling those together, it's more of like a holistic value prop, not just, a transactional thing where you sign up and maybe they pay you with a credit card for one post and then you never hear about them again. It's, hey, how can we grow together and actually integrate it into a marketing plan?
Yeah, I mean, how do you make it sticky? You published a post on July 25th, 2023, titled "What Got You Here Isn't Getting You There." It featured Breck's chief strategy officer, but the sponsor inventory at the top is blank. It says Mostly Metrics plus your logo here. If the original contract with Breck's works, they'd want to be buying up all of your ad space. So how do you create sustainability here?
So that's a great example of a partnership. I did not charge them for that because I met Art and I said, this is an incredibly brilliant person and I want to have him tell his story and share something with my audience. So I actually went and said, hey, do you want to just do this, person to person, and I can interview you on this? So I actually don't try to monetize 100% of everything, because I think people appreciate when you just want to talk to smart people and put them, on display for the audience. So that one,
by the way, I don't think we're in the same space. So like, I don't want to give you that as an out. I don't think what you just said, those don't have to be mutually exclusive. If you do a really great piece of content, somebody is going to be willing to get their name in that piece of content. It's not like you're selling out every time you sell a sponsorship link in a post. So like, my question is, a lot of companies like this, newsletter sponsors, etc., the difficult thing they have is they will get a 6, 12, 10, 15K contract one time from a Brex. But then if they don't get the click-throughs that Brex expected, right, or they don't get, like, Brex can't justify the cost internally over time, it becomes a one-time thing that's very hard to build a sustainable business around. So have you unlocked anything in terms of creating sustainable sponsor relationships that consistently yield you, 4, 5, 6 grand per month?
Yeah. So it's a great question. And I think the key is both sides realizing that, and this is for my audience, CFOs aren't going to just buy something because you did one banner ad in one post. You have to be willing to buy like at least a month or like 6 posts, or, for the podcast, we do 3-month sponsorships because it's best for both of us. You need to hear it multiple times. I remember there was a study that you need to hear about a brand 7 times before you actually consider making a purchase. So I'm very upfront with people who want to sponsor it. And I'll say, listen, I can do a one-time post for you, but I really don't think it's going to be the best results, because you have to also build a relationship with the audience and they have to hear from you multiple times from multiple angles. So I try to caution people away from paying for one thing and saying, listen, I'll even maybe do one post for free just to show you the clicks or something like that. I don't usually do that, but I want to build a long-term relationship where we expose you over time, multiple times to an audience.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, how do you do that? Even when we look at some of your most popular posts on your website, I lost $209,000 of my own money trying to start a business. I don't see anything in here like Brex supports, everyone trying to start a company. Even if you lose 200 grand like me, click here to try Brex, right? I mean, your most popular post should definitely be full, if you have sponsor inventory full, like that should be effectively filled. So I guess
I think the second one down, most popular, or third one down, is on vertical software. That one was sponsored by Abacum, a company that I really believe in within the FP&A space.
Okay.
And what's cool about that is they continue to get clicks now, because most of my content's evergreen. Like, I'm not gonna, like, if you think about different levels of content, you have you have evergreen stuff, which I write, which is always helpful. Like, people are always going to want to know more about metrics so they can make more money over time, be better at their jobs. And then you have news stuff, which may be a flash in the pan and you get big views one day, but people won't visit it. So some of my early posts, I didn't advertise at all, because I was just trying to get audience capture. And to be honest, like, it's kind of one of those things where you're learning on the fly every day and trying to see which model is best.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of creators that, I look up to in the space, and they actually give away a lot of their content for free. So somebody once said to me, CJ, you want to give away so much value that you almost feel sick not charging for it. And that's when the real money will come.
Yeah, it's also a great way for people that can't make money to use as an excuse of why they haven't made any money. I mean, ultimately, you want great content creators to make a lot of money so they can reinvest. I mean, look at Mr. Beast and how much he spends on new videos. The videos get better because he makes so much money. So, like, I want to see you get really rich because you're going to invest it back in what you love.
Me too, brother. Content. Me too.
So, I guess my next question for you is, why give up a % of your podcast revenue to a network when you already own relationships via Mostly Metrics with sponsors like Abacum that you can sell directly?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still a full-time CFO at this point too, and I do nights and weekends and hustle really hard on writing and the podcast. But what Turpentine gives me is more distribution on top of what I already have, professionally produced podcasts and access to people that I may not be able to tap into. So, like, they help me source a lot of the podcast guests. They help me advertise and find partners, and they have a sales arm, which is helpful. And so it allows somebody who's a professional like me to show up and just be responsible for the content.
So like Jim Cook jumping on your show, the co-founder of Netflix, you're saying Turpentine's worth it because they would get a guest like that on my show. You wouldn't be able to get that guest by yourself.
100%. And I think over time, I'll be able to get a lot of these guests by myself. So far, it's probably been 50-50 coming from my network, 50-50 coming from theirs. But what is also potentially, not seen in what we've talked about before is they have other business podcasts. And the best way to grow a podcast is through other podcasts. So Eric Torenberg and Amelia, the co-founders of Turpentine, what they've done an excellent job of doing is making other niches that are somewhat tangentially related who can cross promote each other. The newsletter that I have is an excellent source of distribution, but it's not the end all be all. So I want to grow from different angles. And, by supporting other podcasters on the network, you end up finding this pool of like-minded people who will cross-pollinate between them.
Yep. Very cool. So when do you quit your full-time job and go on media?
That's the multi-million-dollar question here. And I think it's more so when I finally get an idea to fulfill what I call content to commerce. And what my end goal with this is to build a business behind it all. So a lot of companies, what they do is they'll make a startup and then they'll try to find distribution. So they'll start with the product and then try to find the people. My thing is to find the people, have fun creating the content, and then figure out what product they want and then build that for them. So like a lot of content creators use their content to invest in other companies. That's cool and stuff, but I want to build a company behind it. And so, I'm happy in the spot that I'm in now, learning as a CFO, and it gives me a ton of credibility. I think there's a flywheel there where I can crystallize what I'm learning, and I can also be seen as a subject matter expert because I'm doing it day to day. But eventually, I'd love to make this full time, probably within the next 3 years here.
When you send out an email to your 35,000 subscribers, how many open typically, and how many clicked it usually?
Yeah, my open rate right now, yesterday was 46%. So far. And then my click-through rate on any is between 3 and 7%, depending on the post itself. Mm-hmm. But usually it's probably in the 4.5 to 5 range.
Okay. I guess so 46% of 35,000, what is that? Like 16,000 opened. And then you're saying 7% of this, or 5 to 7% of the 16,000 would click?
Yeah, something like that. And then the
Okay.
website itself.
So just to be clear, sorry, that would be like 6, 7, 800 clicks per post.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And yesterday, for example, we got 26,000 first day views because a lot of them are through email, but a lot of them are also just word of mouth. So it was kind of cool. Somebody emailed me today. I made the TLDR tech newsletter for the first time today, which was like a cool milestone for me just because I've read it for so long. But I've been getting picked up by different distribution networks and kind of this whole internet flywheel.
That makes a lot of sense. How many, do you have a way via Substack to analyze your audience? How many of them are true CFOs operating at a SaaS company right now?
My friend actually built me a tool and it's coming to market next month. And it's called Mega Hit. And basically I upload my subscriber list and then it uses Apollo IO and ChatGPT and a couple other tools and LinkedIn to figure out what percentage of people are of what title and what industry they work in. So the last time I checked, I think I had about 7,000 actual CFOs. And then I have other people within it who are, maybe a couple of years behind and aspiring to be CFOs, right? Like maybe they're the head of FP&A and coming.
Are those CFOs at SaaS companies? Do you have any way to know that?
Yeah, it blends them by, it's pretty neat. It'll show me what industry they're in, and then it'll show me how many people work at that company too.
So how many of the 7,000 CFOs on your list are SaaS CFOs, would you say?
About 60%.
Okay, wow, so pretty significant there. Okay, very cool. All right, CJ, on that note, let's wrap up here with the famous five. Number one, your favorite book?
My favorite book, Catch-22 by Joseph Heller.
Number two, is there a CEO you're following or studying?
Yeah, Mark Kostovsky of Minoan Brands, Minoan Experience.
Number three, what's your favorite online tool for building mostly metrics?
My favorite online tool is just a blank Substack page, baby. Straight from the dome.
Number four, how many hours of sleep do you get every night?
Oh, man, I got a 1.5-year-old and then I got another one on the way. So not as much as I'd like, probably 7.
Okay, and the situation? Sounds like married with one kid, another one on the way?
Yes, sir.
All right, and how old are you, CJ?
I'm 32 going on 33.
Nice. Last question, something you wish you knew when you were 20?
Everything's going to be okay. I actually have it written on a Post-it note up here because nothing's ever as good or as bad as it seems. And I think some moments in life and in business in particular, you think it's the end of the world or the best thing ever, but you got to wake up tomorrow and do it again.
Guys, he cut his teeth at an operating company in the private equity firm, also at PwC before that. Now runs a newsletter focused on CFOs, of which he gets a 46% open rate, which is about 16,000 opens, and a 5 to 7% click-through rate, which is 800 clicks per post, called mostlymetrics.com, hosted on Substack. 7,000 of those readers are actual CFOs. In fact, it's so valuable, we've got companies like Brex willing to pay him 1, 2, 3, 4K sort of per post from a sponsor perspective. He's looking to scale that now, launched a podcast as well with Turpentine, still while cutting his teeth as an operator, as a true CFO at a company called Parts Tech, which he's working on. CJ, thanks for taking us to the top.
Thank you, sir. It's been a blast.
One more thing before you go. We have a brand new show every Thursday at 1 p.m. Central. It's called Shark Tank for SaaS. We call it Deal or Bust. One founder comes on, 3 hungry buyers, they try and do a deal live, and the founder shares back-end dashboards, their expenses, their revenue, ARPU, CAC, LTV, you name it, they share it. And the buyers try and make a deal live. It is fun to watch every Thursday, 1 p.m. Central. Additionally, remember, these recorded founder interviews go live. We release them here on YouTube every day at 2 p.m. Central. To make sure you don't miss any of that, make sure you click the subscribe button below here on YouTube, the big red button, and then click the little bell notification to make sure you get notifications when we do go live. I wouldn't want you to miss breaking news in the SaaS world, whether it's an acquisition, a big fundraise, a big sale, a big profitability statement, or something else. I don't want you to miss it. Additionally, if you want to take this conversation deeper and further, we have by far the largest private Slack community for B2B SaaS founders. You want to get in there. We've probably talked about your tool if you're running a company or your firm if you're investing. You can go in there and quickly search and see what people are saying. Sign up for that at nathanlatka.com/Slack. In the meantime, I'm hanging out with you here on YouTube. I'll be in the comments for the next 30 minutes. Feel free to let me know what you thought about this episode. And if you enjoyed it, click the thumbs up. We get a lot of haters that are mad at how aggressive I am on these shows, but I do it so that we can all learn. We have to counter those people. We got to push them away. Click the thumbs up below to counter them and know that I appreciate your guys' support. All right, I'll be in the comments. See ya.